So, I've been. I adore Destiny. It is kind of like my game, right? I there aren't many games that there aren't any games I feel quite like I feel Destiny with. I play a lot of Overwatch, but that's a whole different thing, which we'll get into at another point. With a new series I'm running, but Destiny is like kind of transcendent. Overwatch is like my competitive side. Destiny's like my I don't know, speaks to me on like on a personal level more more resonant, I guess. In that I was gonna say spiritually. It's more spiritually resonant. Destiny is, but you know what I mean. Like it's more like something I can chill out with and play and just like enjoy being part of. Um, the let me go to the thingy maboober. This. Uh, However, I think this season pass structure has confused things, or not confused things, but it's certainly turned a lot of people off. Like I read the Reddit in fits and starts. A lot of the time, I find the Reddit not to be particularly useful. Um, in fact, I think a lot of the criticisms I hear about Destiny are so full of hyperbole. I don't quite know what to make of it. So for the most part, I kind of just discard it as not very useful. Like if there's a certain vitriol around it that I don't like, at some point it just doesn't mean anything to me. Or it says like it's not constructive in any way. Um, However, and I've been very defensive of Destiny in the past, but I've also been pretty critical of it too at times. Uh, I remember being pretty critical around when Rise of Iron came out, and especially in Destiny 1 with its release schedule and just like how little content there was throughout the years. Um, I think that's a problem Destiny 2 solved, right? Like, there's no content problem. How many players do we have here? Not enough. Like, there's stuff to do in Destiny 2. There is a whole bunch of stuff to do in Destiny 2. We need more people to turn up. And that partially that's a problem because the game's ever expanding. It's growing bigger and bigger. Also, you kind of get stuck in circles, and also it starts discarding content, which I know is a big sticking point for a lot of people. And for me personally, I'll probably get into that first. Like for me personally, I love Destiny. And I don't need a huge excuse to start playing it. If the numbers keep going up, I'm happy. Like I'm happy to just keep playing some Crucible and playing Strikes and playing Gambit because I love the moment to moment of this game more than any other. Um, I I like other service games, but I just find myself struggling to enjoy it moment to moment quite as well. Um, Oh god, I don't have a shotgun on. Oh boy, this isn't gonna go well. No. Uh, what was I saying? Um, oh boy. So I don't need a huge excuse to get back into playing Destiny. Like if the numbers go up, I'm pretty much happy to just keep playing, you know, and getting Yep. That was weird. My headphones just cut out. I don't know if that's the case for you. Um, and that's enough for me. Like I don't need a lot. And like this new thing, I think this is fun. Uh, like I don't need a lot to get me back in. And even if it's like even if it's a short stay, that's enough for me too. Um, I don't need huge grinds. I just want a reason to play Destiny, and that's kind of like where I come from, and why I'm happy with, or maybe not happy, but content with their offerings so far in their season passes. Um, However, Destiny is a social game, and it's a shame because a bunch of my friends have been turned off fairly recently, and I don't fault them for it. I get it like I say, to a degree. For me, where this the real problem with Destiny right now is this slavery to the design for the philosophy of FOMO. Luke Smith talked about it a lot. He was like, Destiny's been full of all these great moments of like you had to be there, which is totally true. They have. So it's like, like the Whisper mission, just like raids, like so much of Destiny is I don't even know. We're running around in circles. Here we go. And Destiny is full of these like you had to be there moments. My problem with it, and then why I think it's not necessarily working, is it's kind of like it's like forced fun, right? Like you can't force having a good time with your friends, or like you can't, or I find like the I just threw that and it killed myself. I didn't know those exploded. It's very hard, like to, or like the best evenings, right, are the ones where you weren't even planning to go out. Just spontaneous stuff happened. It was great. If you come into an evening with an itinerary like, okay, at 6 o'clock we're gonna play a little bit of checkers, and then at 7 p.m. we're then gonna have our first alcoholic beverage. 7:30 we'll have some nice dip and stuff. Like that's not fun. And my problem with it is that it's like it's forced fun, which is not what you want. It needs to be somewhat natural. So that's why I think that their FOMO, like their events and stuff, haven't necessarily been hitting. And apart from what some people say, like, in terms of like activities, I kind of, or like new activities, I get people feeling like there's not enough content. But the truth is, I think completely the opposite. Destiny has far too much content, too many weapons, like too much going on. Like I said earlier, I had so many things in my vault that are great weapons, like good weapons that are fun to use. But I must have like 200, 300 good weapons that are fun to use. So now there's so much of this going on. I don't know how much fun I'm going to be having chasing getting god rolls, or chasing getting every single weapon and stuff. Like I'll always try and get every single exotic because that's like a grind I really like, and that's like my grind is making sure I have all the exotics. But in terms of content, I do get why it's underwhelming and why people are struggling a little bit to get enthused about it, which is a shame. Like for me, Destiny's never ever had a problem in terms of its gameplay, and I don't think that's true now either. I think its problem right now is just in this seasonal structure, and I do think it's going to change. They've talked about it in the latest director's cut. That keeps weird. My headphone keeps dying. They've talked about it in like their seasonal cut, right? Like they know that people are feeling a bit weird about the FOMO, although they still kind of seem a little bit slavish to it. Which again, I think they should just kind of like get rid of it and then have natural moments. Because otherwise, I think your audience basically burns out. If they can't keep up with anything, then they feel like they shouldn't play anything. Which I think is actually a big problem for why some people get turned off. And I do think they know that. I think they are aware of what the community is saying and how people feel about the game. I have no idea how close we are to doing this. What was I saying again? Sorry, it's hard to play and go through a reasoned argument at the same time. So yes, I was saying that the FOMO was not great. Oh god, sorry, now actually having to pay attention. And right. I think they are open and getting to the point where they're going to try and change. And they've talked about as much. I think the reality is that this is what this year is at this point. And I think if like you're expecting next season, like they'll learn from their mistakes. I think they set their cruise ship on a destination, um, and it's very hard to try and rewrite that ship once it's done, right? Like, oh, fuck's sake. Bloody rich got in the way. A cruise ship turns very slowly, and I find like games development to be a bit like that, right? Like, or at least from like the outside looking in. Once it's headed one way, which was like the way that they thought they should go. They thought this FOMO thing, and I get the logic behind it. Like, I get what they were saying. Destiny is full of those moments. That's why it's cool. And like that's what they steered their ship towards, was these FOMO things, like an ever evolving game. Um, but I think they've now realized that that's not necessarily the way they should be going, um, and they'll change it. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think this is this year at this point. I think these seasons with like a small-ish new activity to do with new guns and stuff, and then that kind of being it with like some story stuff going on, it's kind of what we can expect, at least from like the very last season as well as this. It's because I don't think there's time for them to be like, oh, we've learned it all and we're going to fix it in this next season that's already been in pre-production for probably a year or so now. Like, it's just not going to happen, which is a shame. And I do think it will perpetuate this feeling that Destiny's in a rough spot, and I think that sucks. Especially as I love this game, especially when I play it with my best friends. But I'm not going to begrudge them playing a game that they don't want to play right now. Like I said, I have a plenty good enough time just moseying around and then putting the game down when I'm going to get done. But it doesn't help the perception, which I think is kind of the overall thing at the moment. Is just like a lot of people are down on it, so then I think everyone starts feeling down on it, and it kind of is like a perpetual, downward trend. That being said, I also think it's completely fine. Like on a personal level, even if I'm not playing Destiny, I'm still not down on it. Like I said in Destiny 1, right? There were these great big periods of no new content, no new like updates, nothing going on, and especially being down, like especially launch Destiny. Fucking remember that stuff. That was like Destiny was a meme at that point. My feeling is that no matter what, though, people are always going to come back, especially with a big new. I have a lot of big high hopes for what the next big expansion is, especially with like how the story's going and like. Theoretically, this being when Destiny 3 was supposed to go. I don't think it's going to be Destiny 3, but I think the scope, maybe not scope, but the original plans and ideation of what this next expansion is going to be is to like kind of the idea of a seismic shift like a Destiny 3. So I think people will come back and it'll be fine. I just think right now it's very easy to feel down on the game. And I just think like, which I get and like totally have your say about it and stuff. I would just like say like keep some perspective and like, Destiny's still a great game. It sucks that the structure of like the online interaction right now isn't quite where it needs to be. But it'll come. Like Destiny has consistently forever been. Destiny's great. Oh, Destiny's not that great. Oh, Destiny's great. Destiny's not that great. Like that's just for me. That just like feels like what Destiny is. I don't. I could be wrong. People might just be done with Destiny forever now. But I just don't believe that's true. That's just kind of like my feelings of where Destiny is right now and like my concerns about it. I know as a player, I don't expect a lot or I don't ask for a lot. Did we get it? No. And that's just me though. And I know people want stuff and they want new, cool, exciting. Like I'd love there to have been a raid this season. I would have adored it. I think that this game could certainly use a raid right about now, but it doesn't look like it's coming, and that sucks. But that's just the reality of it. I mean, they're an independent studio now, right? Like, if this might just be what they can pull off, especially with planning whatever comes next, and like pulling the resources as an only company nowadays. Like, this just might be the scope of what, or I'm sure this is the scope of what they've been able to pull off during their production time. I don't think they're being lazy or anything. I think this is just. They're in an awkward spot of leaving Activision. Like I said, I have expectations that the next expansion will be the biggest one yet, or be a big seismic shift for Destiny. So I imagine there's some resources going into that and stuff like. So I don't know. I don't feel that hard on it. At the same time, I hear people and their concerns about Destiny and where it is right now. Same time, I just like to say like it's okay to not be playing Destiny. Still a great game. It's still okay to love it. You don't have to love it all the time, constantly, forever to still appreciate it. You know. That's kind of just like what my thoughts on where Destiny is right now, or just like some general musings while I'm playing, which I found out is actually super, super hard. It's hard to concentrate and make an argument while you're playing at the same time. But anyways, as a big old Destiny player and a very optimistic one, I just thought it'd be worth me putting my 2 cents out there. And this is kind of my feelings on it. Hey, Gio. But anyways, thanks for listening to me out on that, and I'll catch you at some point in the future with something like that.